Okay, the next definition is door reveal. Really important that we've got an understanding of what that is, because sooner or later it will absolutely play a part of what you're working on. So let's talk about what door reveal is. Door reveal can be thought about simply as the dimension from the face of the frame to the face of the door when you're standing on the push side. Door reveal can be thought about jam depth minus inset minus door thickness. That could be door reveal. When I've said push side or pull side to people, there's some real wise guys that like to debate what is the push side of the door, what is the pull side. Well, if the door is open, I'm pushing it closed. What's the natural state of the door? You've got a fail-safe lock. What's the natural state of that lock? The natural state of it is unlocked. Take it out of the box, that's what it is. Its purpose in life is that it's unlocked until you influence it. What's the purpose of the door? To be open or closed? The purpose of the door is to be closed. That's the reason the door is there. Otherwise, you don't need a door. So when I say the push side or the pull side, the natural state of the door is closed. Everything the door has been asked to do in its life is to just be closed. Open is a temporary scenario. Door reveal is when you're on the push side of the opening. Assuming that we're not dealing with a center hung application where the door is literally in the center of the opening, following this definition along, it's when you are on the push side of a door that will swing away from you. It could be something center hung. And evolving our definition and understanding better for door reveal turns into an application where when you think of in your mind's eye the jam depth, and the door is in that frame, the face of the frame to the face of the door, like when you're on the pull side of an in-swinging door, if you're on the inside, or the pull side of an out-swinging door if you're on the outside, if you run your hand over the door and the frame and it's basically flush, okay, that's what we're trying to determine. The distance from the face of the door to the face of the frame. It can be flush. A lot of residential doors are flush. Aluminum storefront can be flush. Hollow metal is really never flush. There's always a slight inset there. But our definition of door reveal is go to the other side of that opening. Now stand there. Same concept. Face of the frame to the face of the door. Now that is important to know because your hardware is impacted by what you're doing. Here's the outside. That inset can be 0, that inset can be very small, or that inset can be anything, but that right there is called the inset, the distance from here to here. But reveal is the distance from here to here. Okay, so let's draw that. That's reveal. Now why that, and we're looking at a cross section. Why that's important is because you have your top jam mounted door closer there. You need to make sure that the arm length is long enough. It almost always is, but there are instances when it's not. If it's 5 3/4, 6 3/4, I generally don't think about it. Meaning, let's back that up. If I'm not doing top jam, a top jam mounted automatic door operator, a top jam mounted hydraulic door closer, I'm really not thinking about reveal. But as soon as I start thinking of an opening or a closing device, I'm absolutely thinking about reveal because the arm simply needs to be long enough, whether it be that hydraulic mechanical door closer or it be an automatic operator. You're going to top jam mount a big automatic operator and that arm's going to run to the face of the door. The forearm has got to be long enough to get to the face of the door. And it's important to think about this because not every opening in the world is 5 3/4 jammed up frames. I've seen stuff I talked to a customer last week. He was doing a 24-inch deep frame. It had nothing to do with reveal. I think the deepest I've done is about there, 22-inch, maybe 18-inch. I wasn't doing anything with a closer, a top jam closer or an operator, but I've absolutely been on a job where they had 8 3/4 frames, and the most elegant way to install the closers was top jam. Doors swing out, get the body up out of the opening, and actually if you look at NFPA 101, you'll see a minimum dimension for hardware hanging into the vertical clear opening of the space, which is 80 inch. You toss a parallel arm mounted closer onto a 7-foot door and you've got probably an issue of technically encroaching into that space. So I like to take that closer and move it up there. You'll very often see a national franchise of submarine shops, which I go into. LCN 40, 40, whatevers, aluminum storefront, drop plate on the header, body on the drop plate on the header, and that arm going right to the face of the door. Works really great. Closer's up out of the way. Sure, the arm's hanging off, but who really notices that stuff unless you're a door person? So let's switch to the screen view and I'll show you a couple of the supporting documents that I fall on when it comes to making sure that the hardware I'm supplying is compatible with the reveal that I'm either supplying or inheriting. Let's do that. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, so here's our definition of door reveal. The distance from the face of the door to the face of the frame on the push side. Yeah, SDI thinks of it, as the natural state of the door. Anyway, so the documentation that I like to use when it comes to door closer related stuff has always been Norton. And Norton is probably the first door closer catalog that I really ever used, so I became most comfortable with it. But it turns out they really earn the fact that I continue to go back to it because their catalog is laid out so well. And what I mean by that is they dedicate an individual page basically to every possible application. So if you're relatively new in the industry and you just want to start learning about door closers, I highly recommend the Norton catalog. Yale as well, but they're being sister companies. Their documentation is the same. I don't know that was the case in 1990, 1991 when I first looked at a Norton catalog, but I always go back to Norton because they do such a good job with it. Now, here's a great example of what I'm talking about. They've got a whole page dedicated to just regular arm. Well, reveal doesn't come in to regular arm because our closer's mounted on the opposite side, but it sure does here on a top jam arm. So, they do a great job at defining reveal. The drawing I guess could be better, but this is the face of the header, and I think what they want to show is the face of the door, not to the inside stop face, but the face of the door to the face of the header. That's your reveal. Now, what's really handy about that is they're going to tell you the reveal that you can expect the hardware to work. So if you've got a reveal from 0 to 3 inch, you can count on this stuff working. But if you've got a 2 3/4 to 7 inch reveal, which is going to be probably where you fall in, 5 3/4 minus, let's just say 3/32 minus 1 3/4. Yeah, you've got basically a 3 23, 3 29/32 reveal. So yeah, you're going to be here. A J7500 is going to do it. But what's really important about that is it will tell you your maximum degree of opening. Your client said, hey, this has got to go to 180 degree. Well, in that case, you got to use the JL version. And guess what? The L just stands for long. So you're going to have a longer arm on that. So let's see if Norton pays off a second time. And of course they do. So the secondary arm assembly is what we're talking about here. JL 7701 and a 131. It's going to give you this longer arm assembly here. And that's really what it is. You'll get to a point where you can't stretch that arm long enough to get to 180 degrees because it'll bottom out, so to speak. So, and it's for this reason alone that I rely on that Norton catalog so much, because they do such a good job at keeping me out of trouble. So, if you know you've got a reveal in this range and you have to go to say 180 degrees, etc., So the bottom line is, this JS 7500 is not going to work for most reveals. It just won't work. Let's also take a look if Norton, yeah. So they've got a heavy duty, they've got a spring top jam mount, what they call a unitrol. Same concept, a reveal. Reveals up to a maximum of 7 3/8. Yeah, so an 8 3/4 jam, yeah, you're going to be good there. It's just on our standard arm, if you had an 8 3/4 jam depth, and you were going to do a top jam mount on an 8 3/4 jam, and it went up to 7-inch, you can see that you're only 1/10 of an inch within the maximum limitation of what that arm could do. So that's why you're checking. Let's also take another look at another opportunity here to explain. Yeah, okay, automatic operator. This is technically a low energy operator. It can be high energy if you added sensors, but this is a top jam mount is what this is. Let's see if I can show you a little bit better. Yeah, well, that drawing kind of tells us a little bit about it. That appears to be a center hung up. Well, no, it doesn't. Or it could be. Body up on the header. There we go. There's a lot happening here, but reveal. Face of the header to the face of the door. The forearm here, I did a job for, I supplied material to a client. It was an automatic operator, and he said, I need you to give me a recommendation of someone to help me to install this for me. And I gave him a recommendation. A guy that I know in Chicago that I've referred pretty difficult stuff to. We discovered on that job that, yep, he had an exceptionally deep reveal. And the reveal wasn't our newly understood definition of reveal, face of the frame or header to the face of the door. What this client actually had to do, I'm on some random ad-infested website. What the client had, so the reveal would be the face of the header to the face of the door. Well, the client had to mount the operator up on this brick wall, and he had a fabricator make him a steel plate that he bolted with masonry anchors to the face brick, and drop that unit down to get the arm to the face of the door. But this was exactly what it looked like. So the reveal in this case was actually the face of the plate that mounted to the brick that is around the lintel under which the frame is installed, into which the door is installed. So if we go back here, we've got a wall, we've got whatever that lintel looks like. We have a frame, and then we've got a door, and then we've got that steel plate that's out here. So the reveal was really here to here. That's the reveal. So that got us to requiring this document from the automatic operator manufacturer. So they have a chart that gets you way out in terms of reveal. And I don't remember what our math, what we required in terms of the absolute special extended connecting rod, but we needed one. It's just the bottom line to get the unit installed. This arm here. Okay. Okay, so that's reveal. I've said as much as I can think of about it. Door schedule. That's the next one. Let's move on. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.